When I was 22, I worked nights at a hotel just off the highway. It wasn't sketchy exactly, but it wasn't somewhere you'd vacation either. Mostly truck drivers, road crews, and people passing through who didn't ask questions. I worked the front desk from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. alone on my first night. The manager gave me the basics: keys, security monitor, emergency numbers. Then, right as he was leaving, he paused and said something strange. "If anyone asks you to open the back door," he said, "don't." I laughed a little, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back. "Even if they say they work here," he added. "Especially if they say they work here." That should have been my first warning. Most nights were quiet, boring, even. I'd scroll my phone, refill coffee, watch the parking lot cameras. Around 2 or 3 a.m., a man would sometimes come in from the vending machines outside and ask for towels or ice. Then one night, around 3:17 a.m., the back door alarm chimed softly. That door wasn't supposed to open at all. I checked the camera. There was a man standing there, facing the door, tall, wearing a reflective vest like a road worker. He knocked twice. Calm, patient. I picked up the desk phone and called my manager. "Don't answer it," he said immediately. "But he's just standing there," I replied. "He looks like—" "I don't care what he looks like," my manager cut in. "If he doesn't have a room key, he doesn't come in." I watched the camera as the man leaned closer to the door. Then he smiled. Not at the camera, at the door itself. He raised his hand and knocked again, slower this time. Then he spoke. Even through the camera microphone, I heard it clearly. "I know you're in there." My stomach dropped. I didn't respond. I didn't move. He waited. Minutes passed. Finally, he stepped back and walked out of frame. I didn't breathe until the sun came up. The next morning, the manager came in early. He didn't ask what happened. He already knew. "That's the third time this year," he said quietly. I asked him who the man was. He just shook his head. "All I know," he said, "is every hotel on this stretch of highway has the same rule." I quit 2 weeks later. I still don't know what would have happened if I opened that door, but I know I wasn't supposed to find out. My first full-time job after college was at a call center in a business park just outside the city. The kind of place with tinted windows, bad coffee, and fluorescent lights that made every day feel longer than it actually was. We handled customer support for several companies, so everything we did was tracked. Login times, breaks, call duration, even how long you sat idle between tickets. Because of that, management turnover was constant. Except for one manager named Brian. Brian had worked there longer than anyone else. He started as an overnight agent, then moved up to supervisor, then manager. Everyone said the same thing about him. He was serious, but reliable. He was in his early 40s, tall, always dressed the same, button-down shirt, black slacks, ID badge perfectly centered on his chest. He didn't joke, didn't gossip, didn't hang out in the break room. But he was always there. Literally, it became a running joke that Brian never clocked out. His badge would still show as on-site long after his shift ended, sometimes well past midnight. If you asked him about it, he'd just smile slightly and say, "Old habits." At first, nothing about him scared me. He was strict, sure, but fair. If you did your job, he left you alone. That changed about 3 months in. One afternoon, I logged into the system and noticed a note attached to my employee profile. "User appears distracted today." I assumed it was a mistake. Maybe meant for someone else. I asked IT about it. They told me only managers could add performance notes like that. When I brought it up to Brian later, he didn't deny it. "You seemed off," he said calmly. "Just an observation." After that, the notes started appearing more often. Not disciplinary, not official warnings, just observations. Left desk frequently, took longer lunch than usual, stayed late again. They were accurate. Uncomfortably accurate. I started feeling watched, not in a dramatic way, more like the constant awareness that someone knew where I was at all times. I became careful. I took my breaks exactly on time. I avoided the break room. I stopped chatting with coworkers. Then something happened that made my stomach drop. One morning, I logged in and saw a new note. Didn't sleep well last night. That wasn't something the system could track. I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't complained. I hadn't even mentioned it casually. I stared at the screen for a long time. When I asked Brian about it, he just looked at me. "You yawned a lot," he said, "and your call times were slower." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. A week later, I stayed late to finish a backlog of tickets. The office was nearly empty, just a few agents on the far end of the floor. At 6:30 p.m., Brian walked past my desk. "You don't have to stay," he said. "I'm almost done," I replied. He nodded. "You always say that." I didn't remember ever saying that to him. I left around 7:15 p.m. that night. Around 46 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a work email, sent from my own company address. The subject line was blank. The message read, "You should have stayed." I felt sick. I checked the sent folder on my work email the next morning. Nothing. IT couldn't find the message either. They said it didn't exist in the system. 2 days later, Brian didn't come into work. HR sent out a vague email saying he was no longer with the company and that operations would continue as normal. No explanation. No goodbye. The notes on my profile stopped immediately. Weeks later, during a routine audit, IT discovered something strange. For months, system activity had been logged late at night. Database access, profile views, internal notes. But none of it was tied to an employee ID. The activity was coming from inside the building. Badge logs showed no one had entered, except one badge. Brian's, still marked as on-site. They disabled his access completely after that. One transferred departments not long after. Even now, whenever I log into a new system at a new job, I get this uneasy feeling, like there's going to be a note waiting for me. Not a warning, not a message, just proof that someone was watching, long after they were supposed to be gone. I was the last person in the building that night. At least, I thought I was. I worked as a junior accountant at a small firm, the kind that handles payroll and taxes for local businesses. Nothing high profile, just numbers, deadlines, and the inevitable long hours at the end of the month. Most days, the office cleared out by 6 p.m. sharp. That night, it was almost 9. The office was quiet in a way that only empty workplaces are. You know the feeling. The constant hum of fluorescent lights, the distant whir of the air system cycling on and off. Every little sound felt louder than it should have been. It was just me and the numbers, or so I believed. I was finally finishing a report, just a few more clicks, when the main office phone rang. Not my desk phone, the big one, sitting all by itself at the reception desk. That was strange. Our clients didn't call this late, and the voicemail was set to pick up after hours. Why was it ringing now? I hesitated, but the sound was insistent, echoing through the silent office. I walked over and picked it up. "Hello, this is..." I started to say, but there was no response on the other end. Just breathing. Slow, steady breathing, like someone holding the receiver uncomfortably close to their mouth. A shiver ran down my spine. "Hello, who is this?" I asked, my voice a little shakier than I wanted. The breathing stopped, then a sharp click. The line went dead. My mind immediately tried to rationalize it, a prank call, a wrong number. Someone forgetting to hang up their phone properly. It happens. Right. I walked back to my desk, my heart thumping a little faster, and tried to focus on my report again. I just wanted to get it done and get out of there. But 5 minutes later, it happened again. The reception phone started ringing. Same loud, piercing sound. This time, I almost didn't answer. But a part of me needed to know. I picked it up. Hello. This time, a voice spoke. It was calm, measured. Not distorted, not whispered. It sounded disturbingly close. You missed something. My chest tightened. My throat went dry. Who is this? I demanded. The voice on the other end just chuckled softly, a low, chilling sound. You're still there. I slammed the phone down. My hands were trembling. I wasn't thinking about the report anymore. I just needed to leave. As I was about to grab my things, the phone started ringing for a third time. I marched over to the reception desk, my fear turning into anger, and yanked the cord right out of the wall. Silence. Finally, my heart was pounding in my ears now, but I tried to calm myself down. The building has security, cameras, badge access on all the doors. No one can just walk in. It had to be a technical glitch, a crosswire, something explainable. I went back to my desk, packed up my laptop, and grabbed my bag. It was time to go. And that's when my cell phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. My blood ran cold. The message was short, just 5 words. Desk drawer, bottom left. I froze. I was standing right next to my desk. I hadn't told a single soul I was staying late tonight, and there was no way anyone outside the office would know which desk was mine. It felt impossible. My hand moved on its own, slowly, reluctantly, pulling open the bottom left drawer. Inside, sitting on top of a stack of old files, was a manila folder I'd never seen before. No label, no markings, just a plain, unassuming folder. With shaking hands, I opened it. Inside were printed pages, stills from the security cameras. Me. The pictures showed me entering the building that morning, waving at the receptionist. Me sitting at my desk, typing away. Me walking to the break room to get coffee earlier that evening. The timestamps were from inside the office, all from today. The final picture was taken just 30 minutes ago. It was a clear shot of me, sitting at my desk, completely unaware. My hands were shaking so badly, almost dropped the folder. Someone was watching me, not from outside, from inside. And that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Soft, unhurried footsteps coming from somewhere down the hall. They weren't frantic or rushed. They were calm, casual, like someone taking a leisurely stroll through their own home. I didn't call out. I didn't scream. Every survival instinct I had told me to be silent. I just stood there, paralyzed, listening. The footsteps got closer, then stopped, right outside my section of the office. The silence that followed was worse than the sound, and then, the impossible happened. The office phone on the reception desk, the one I had unplugged from the wall, rang once. Just a single, jarring ring that shattered the quiet. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I just ran. I grabbed my bag, leaving my computer on, my desk unlocked. I sprinted through the hallway, my own footsteps echoing loud and frantic. I didn't look back. I burst through the main doors and out into the cool night air of the empty parking lot. I fumbled for my keys, jumped in my car, and drove straight home. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the corner of my eye sent a fresh wave of terror through me. The next morning, I couldn't bring myself to go back alone. I called my manager and 2 coworkers, my voice trembling as I tried to explain what happened. We went back together, and we called the police. They searched the entire building, floor by floor, and they found something none of us knew existed. Hidden behind a locked panel in a forgotten storage room, they found an old, secondary phone extension. It was still active. It completely bypassed our main system, wired directly into the building's infrastructure. There was no paperwork for it, no record of its installation. It had been there for years, a ghost in the machine. But that wasn't the worst part. The police checked the security cameras. The ones near my desk hadn't been disabled or tampered with in a way that would trigger an alarm. They had been manually repositioned, ever so slightly, as if someone wanted to get a better angle, a clearer view of me. The firm moved offices 3 months later. The official reason was to expand, but we all knew the real reason. No one ever figured out who made those calls, or who was in the office with me that night. We never got an answer, but sometimes, even now, when my phone rings late at night from an unknown number, I still let it go to voicemail, because if someone was inside with me that night, they might still be out there, listening. Thank you for watching. If you have a story that keeps you up at night, share it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more.